Good morning guys, welcome to the most tidiest disaster you will ever see in your life, right? Can anyone spot what the disaster is apart from this washing rack in here? Can anyone spot what the disaster is before we go any closer? I'll give you a few seconds. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Some of you will see that this tank is low on water. Somehow this has evaporated. I'm kidding, it's not evaporated. What has happened here is the tank has split, but where is the water? That is the question today, right? So let's give some context to this. This basement is heated with underfloor heating, right? I have a drain over there as well. I also have a dehumidifier in the room away in this corner over this side. And when I first come in here this morning, guys, my first thoughts were, what's happened to the water? It's just disappeared, right? And then I was like looking around thinking, is it somehow siphoning out of the tank and I can't see it and it's secretly going to the drain over here? Nope, that wasn't the clue. So then I started to look for wetness around here, and then I got to about here and thought, yeah, this is a little bit wet here, this is a little bit wet, this is a little bit wet. I was looking on the floor. Now I can see here, guys, that there has been water here, you see it? And it has dried back up. Just excuse this horrific tiling job that the previous owner did to this house, but it serves a purpose. Underfloor heating. If you come over here, you can see on the side of the rack underneath that water has been here as well. I can see it, but there's absolutely no water on the floor at all. You'd never have guessed that this tank has lost close to probably about 100 litres of water, and there is absolutely no sign that it ever happened. That is bizarre. Everything's empty, dry. This is all dry, right? And I think what's happened is, because we have the underfloor heating, that's helped evaporate the water, and of course we have a dehumidifier that's just sucked all that extra water up and sent it down the drain. And so there's a good thing, I suppose, about having underfloor heating and a dehumidifier. Have you ever had a lot of spills and stuff like that? They take care of it themselves. I've not even had to use a mop or anything. But let's get on to this. Why has it leaked? Why has it leaked? You can kind of see in the corner up here that I have taped it a little bit. This is because I finally found out what it was. This seam here has split. You see it? It's just opened a little bit. I've put this duct tape on here, a couple of layers of duct tape, just to hold it like this, because I can physically move this back and forward. You see it? And yeah, I can physically see that this seam has opened up all the way down here. And guys, this was a tank that I resealed probably about 4 or 5 years ago. So it's been on that top rack in my old house for a good 5 or 6 years, something like that. Nothing split, right? So the other thing, guys, I was thinking about here was, why has it split? And I think it's quite obvious. In my other house, I actually had this sitting on a foam pad. And here I forgot to put the foam pad on. And you can see in the corner here, right, I think this is where most of the leaking has happened, because this is where it looks like it's still the wettest. Right, the glass on the front edge here is probably been pushed up a little bit or something like that, and it is forced the stress in the glass. I actually had a bizarre incident like a few weeks ago where I put a glass in the dishwasher upside down and in between two prongs like this, and it smashed the glass just doing that. There was hardly any pressure on the glass, but there was enough pressure there, sustained pressure, to actually shatter the glass. And I think this is what happens when you get stuff like this. Glass is just not really, really good with any type of pressure. So how do we fix this? I would say the one thing that we have to do as soon as possible is remove all the stones. So as I said, there is some Opae Ula in here. You would have seen this in a previous video. You probably will just see the odd one flying around in here. We need to find them. Like there's an Opae Ula, there's an Opae Ula, there's one at the back in the glass. We realistically right now have to save this water, put the rocks into buckets, put the filtration into buckets, or put the shrimp into the tank underneath. You see they're very active today. Very, very active. They have tons and tons of baby rays. So yeah, we'll do that. We'll get all this emptied, save all the water. We'll dry out the tank. I'll probably get a hand from my son, and we'll put some cardboard onto the floor here. And I'll start to take apart this tank, strip it, I have a lot of silicone tubes. I have probably 3 or 4 silicone tubes. I don't know why, I just went ahead and bought loads of them. Every time I go to the store I buy like an extra tube just in case something like this happens. You always need silicone tubes in a room. I mean, I've really had tank failures since I've moved to Norway. I've had them in my life doing in other places, but it doesn't matter. I think this is the first one I've had where the glass is actually split from the seam. And we'll empty it. I'll show you how I'm going to seal it together. We're going to have to clean all this old silicone off here. All the old stuff. It's probably one of the things I didn't do very well in the last time. If you have a look in here, you can see a little bit black silicone. And the stuff I put in was white. So that is something that we'll fix as well. Yeah, and then we'll fill it up. And of course we'll have to wait a few days, but then we'll fill it up and we'll be good to go again. This tank was actually bought as a tank that was split, and I fixed it. I resealed the whole thing myself. Yeah, it has a history of splitting. Some people would say just get rid of it and buy a new one, but why do that when I can fix it? First job is going to be removing any of the Opae Ula that are in here, and just luckily for us guys, we already have an old tank set up here that's just busting at the seams with Opae Ula, right? So we can put them in there in the time being. As I said, the turnaround time will probably be about 3 or 4 days for us to totally change this, fix it and get it set back up again, because we want to make sure that our new silicone is going to be fully cured before we add any water back into the tank. Right? And guys, I have decided already that I'm going to reseal this entire tank. I'm not just going to do a partial reseal of the front. I'll reseal the entire tank, and I'm going to make sure I put it on mega thick as well, because this is a big tank. This is 250 litres of water in here when it's full. So let's get these shrimp caught. There's one right there. As I see it, it disappears. Do you see it in there? Right, yeah, you're probably not going to see see much. These shrimp are very, very hard to see at the best of times. Like there's one there, see it? So this is what I'll do. I'll put my shrimp into this little tub here, and I'll transfer them down into the bottom tank. And yeah, I'll be back in a momento. The tank has started to leak again as I'm doing this, so we're going to have to up the speed a little bit. You can see it's all dripping down here and all over this tank above it. So yeah, we're going to have to get these rocks out sooner. I would have rather gotten all the Opae Ula out first, because this is going to create quite the mess, I would imagine. And we're going to put them into this brute trash can over here, and I'll be able to fill this up. I can put the filter and stuff into there as well. All of this stuff can live in there for a few days. Look at how many Opae Ula is still in there. There's like 4 or 5 just in the screen. There's not meant to be any in there yet, guys. So I'll get this done and I'll be right back. Alright, let me catch the rest of the shrimp, because there's a lot of them in here. So I've finally gotten most of the shrimp out, and while I've been doing it, guys, I'm starting to see some of the mistakes that I've been making. And yeah, let's have a little look and you'll see what I mean. Right, so under here, if you can see right in this very corner there, that looks to me like the top of a screw head. And if you can see around that, it looks like a wet patch, right? So this is my bad again for not putting the foam pad underneath, but this is something you should definitely not do, is put a tank on top of a screw head. Once I've moved this tank, I'll have a look at that screw head and see if it protrudes at all, and if it does, this is probably the reason why this tank has split its seam right here, because it's right in the corner. The other thing that indicates that that probably is the issue is this here as well. You can see it, see the condensation underneath this white line, and then there's a very dark line here. That indicates that the inside line is wet, and this inside line, there's a pocket where condensation can form, right? So this just indicates that there is an unevenness in the board that this sits on, which again is my fault because I didn't put the foam pad back on underneath, which is, you can see now, guys, because I was in a hurry to move here and get things done, I'm paying for this by giving myself extra work. One of the other things I noticed as well while I was doing this is, look at this seal in the corner. Look at the seal. I'll try and aim at it. You can see it's quite serious, it's split there, but guys, look how thick the tank glass is here, and look at the seal. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? I put nowhere near enough silicone in the corner for a tank of this size. Look at this corner as well, I've done the same over here. If you can see it, that is the exact same thing. Right, this is a big, big tank. You want a thick seal in a tank like this, and I don't know if it's just because I was a little bit inexperienced doing this with the tank, because you can see down here it is much thicker. You can see along the bottom edges it's really thick, along this edge it's really, really thick as well. So yeah, that is a lesson learned, that try and not skimp on stuff, try not to rush things when you don't have to. I knew when I was putting this tank there that I should have put a foam mat down, but I thought I could have got away with it. I felt with my hand, thought, yeah, this is kind of level. The screw heads felt like they were low enough, but there you have it. By the way, the other thing I thought was quite insane is, just remember guys, this tank is being set up. I'm not meant to actually have shrimp in here yet. When I put the rocks in, however, from the old tank, when I moved house, there was still some shrimp on the rocks. I actually shook them a little bit like this, gave them a shuggle, but there was still some shrimp on it. Look how many there was. This is mind-blowing. Isn't that an awful lot? There's like 30 plus shrimp in there. And the other thing I noticed is we're going to have to keep all the gunky water that is in here. I'm going to have to strain it into a net over here, because yeah, there's baby shrimp in there as well. It's probably the only time I'd never wanted a tank to have baby shrimp, because these are so small that, guys, they're like the size of Neocaridina babies when they're newly born. So I'm going to use my big green net over here, and we're simply going to place it over the root trash can like this, and this should be able to catch even the tiniest baby shrimp. I think the mesh size in this is 0.5 mil. So it should be able to catch everything, but it will also catch all this crud. What I'm going to do with all this stuff, guys, is, just because I don't want to kill shrimp, I'm going to put it all into this tank, and these guys will eat all that crud and stuff. Look how many's in here. There's too many. Look at all the baby shrimp. So this is the tank cleaned. On the inside, I use reverse osmosis water, clean the glass. I have towel dried the seams, and the next job now, guys, would be to bring this thing down onto a workable space, which is going to probably be about here, because that's the flattest part in this shrimp room. I'll put some boxes down, some cardboard boxes, laying flat. We'll put the tank down, and then we'll start to take it apart. Alright guys, so the tank is actually down on the ground. I've got my son to help me lift it. It's not that heavy actually. Let's have a little look at this. I inspected it for raised screw heads, and I'm proud to say that there was nothing, but what I do feel when I do this with my hand is a little bit unevenness. And so wherever you have unevenness underneath an aquarium, there's a possibility of twisting and stuff in the glass, which causes stress in the glass, and which means it can break, right? So this was where the questionable screw head was here. And it's actually below the surface of the wood here. I can't feel it at all. So this wasn't the cause of the split seam. I'm pretty confident in saying that I think this was caused by me not putting enough silicone on this and doing a poor job in general of resealing this in the first place. Some of it you can see I didn't even take the old silicone off. So this is a lesson learned. If you can see down here, for this thickness of glass, I didn't put anywhere near enough silicone on this. So yeah, we're going to have to strip all this off and reseal it. For taking apart a tank like this, guys, it is really, really simple. What you will need is a sharp knife like this. This serves as a separator, and all this does is goes between the panes or the panels, and it separates the glass panels from each other, right? And from there, guys, what you want to use is one of these scrapers, right? And then you will use this to actually physically place this on the glass and scrape the silicone off it, right? And the better you do this, the sharper your blade on your tool when you do this, the better your seal will be in the end, right? So you want to get off as much silicone as possible. What we're going to do, right, is we're going to do the first panel here. I'll show you how to do it, and then we'll start resealing it, right? And guys, when you're doing this as well, it's always worthwhile cleaning your joints. So I have some alcohol here, and I have a little bit of paper, right? You want to just wipe the joints, try and keep everything as clean as possible. The cleaner and the better you do this in the long run, your tank will just be safer in general. Okay, let's get on with it. Alright guys, so here you can see one of the seals here, right? So what you want to do is take your knife, and you're just going to shove it in between the two gaps. I'm going to do it from the inside to see if you guys can actually see it, or not, maybe not. If it's older silicone, this can be a wee bit tough just to get started, and you might have to do this a few times. There you go, see the knife is in there. Let me push this down out the way. You see it, and now the seal is opening, right? So you can see just the inside seal here. There is some old black silicone, right? So this is something that I should have replaced originally when I resealed the tank the first time, and I didn't because I was lazy, right? So all this stuff helps with your structural integrity. If you replace all the weakest parts with something that is stronger, you'll have a better tank eventually in the end, right? Let's do the other side. Alright guys, so this was the broken side. This is the seam that is split. I wonder if I can actually show you. Well, hold on. Let me see. You can actually see the seam has split here, and it's split really, really weirdly. It's not evenly like you'd expect with a knife cut or something like that. It's actually just split all the way down itself, right? So this one will be easy for us to separate, because all we're doing is putting something in like this and going down all the way to the bottom. You see? And if you hear the crunching, you want to stop. And you want to try and dig up from the bottom instead. There you go, right? So this panel is almost going to come off, you see it? But there is one more seal on the base down here that we must also separate. So I want to show you this, guys, while I'm doing it, and that is the bottom seal is really, really loose and flimsy. I've only cut it along probably quarter of the way, and look at this. That's not so good. It should be holding a wee bit better than that, right? So let's see if we can separate it a little bit. You hear it bubbling up? You can actually see the silicone folding up the old stuff. You see it, and it's separating from the glass. So that is not a good sign. That cracking noise that you hear is something that you want to avoid, right? So we're going to hold the tank like this, and I'm actually going to physically cut the old silicone like this. If you hear that cracking noise like that, what that is glass on glass, and you want to avoid that or you'll break the tank. You see the difference here? So there is our front panel off the tank. Right, and yeah, let's put this to the side and we'll take apart the rest, because yeah, I'm going to reseal this entire tank. So I thought I'd show you this, guys, where you have silicone actually between the panels, right? It's not your standard silicone job where all you're doing is silicone in the joint. These bigger tanks actually have a little bead of silicone like this. You see it? This part I'm rubbing with the knife, that is separating the glass panels. And the bit that we see in the tank is the bulbous bit here, the bit at the top. And with a bit of luck, this will pull right off. See what I mean? So with bigger tanks, if you have a seal fail, it's probably better for you to reseal the entire tank than try and fix something that could possibly break and be catastrophic in the future. Okay, once your panels are apart, right, you want to get into your joint and you want to make it as clean as possible, right? So this is where this little glass scraper comes in. I love these things, right? All you do is go like this, you see it? And you push it all off. And it's kind of really, really satisfying when you do this, especially when it all comes off at once. Now you want to make sure you get as much of this stuff off as possible, guys. Right, so get in there, scrape the glass, get everything off. Make sure that your blade is new, and make sure that it is clean. Right, get in there and scrape off all this stuff. You see? Much better. So that is all the big stuff off of the glass, right? So what we have to do next is we have to remove all the residual silicone that's left in here, guys. I'm going to give you a little tip, right? And that is, when you're doing this, change your scraper blade and don't actually scrape the edge, because all you'll do is you'll blunt the scraper, right? What you want to do is you want to do the whole top surface first, the flat pieces like this, if you can see, like this, and don't do the edge at all. Because if you go around and start doing the edges like this, you'll dull this and you'll make it even harder for yourself to get all this off, right? So do this first and then do that second. Alright, so we have gotten most of the silicone off the front panels of glass. This is all the edges that you will see. Right, but because I'm going to use clear silicone on this, I want to clean up all the edges. And this includes this edge here because it will be visible through the tank, through the clear silicone, right? So instead of using a scraper and just dulling the edge on the actual scraper, what I use, guys, is a piece of emery paper. And this is the type of stuff that you would use for polishing stainless steel sink, for example, right? So this is something like 600 grit, and you just go over it like this, and it will start to take off all the extra silicone really quite easily, right? But one thing I must mention here, guys, is please do not use this on the glass itself or you'll scratch it. Alright guys, we are at the stage where we're going to put the glass panels back together. I'm not actually going to finish tidying up the edges until it is actually together, just to make it a little bit easier for myself, because you guys know I have a bad back, right? So I've raised it up off the floor, I put it on a table, and we put 4 pieces of masking tape on each side that will flip up to hold the glass, right? You'll see in a second. Masking tape, painter's tape, whatever you want to call it. Right, so we must start with the back panel, and when I was doing this, guys, I did notice that there was no actual silicone between the joints apart from the front, which leads me to believe that was maybe something I did and it wasn't part of the original build, right? So we're not going to actually put silicone on the glass before we put the panel in. We're going to put the panel in, build the whole tank, and then we're going to clean it up. We're going to use some acetone. I think I said we were going to use alcohol before. We're going to use acetone, and yeah, let's do this, because my back is not the best in the world for doing this kind of thing, and these panels are heavy. Right, so the thing that is important with this is that we get it sitting in the correct position off the bat, right? So let's see, can I see better without my glasses? Probably. Right, so I want to put this down where it's going to go on top of the tape first time. Roughly. Like so, you see? Because this is going to be one of the corner foundations of our tank, right? And I'm going to flip up that bit of tape at the back, and this will help secure this piece in place, right? So we're going to build a box. The next piece will be the side panel, which is right behind me here. Like this. And we're going to do the same thing now. You have to be a little bit ambidextrous with this, in that it is a little bit difficult to do this first time, right? So put your piece in, make sure it's in line, like this. Like so, you see? And then we're going to grab the piece of tape on the bottom, and we're going to fold it up. Now I have strategically placed pieces of tape in the shrimp room in just different areas, like here, look. And this is so I can tape the corners as I go along, because this is what's going to hold the aquarium up as you tape in the corners. So you want to make sure that it's at least straight and level, and do one of the corners like this. Now it is a little bit humid in here, so the tape doesn't always want to stick first time all the time. Right, but just persevere, push it on, and I like to put 2 bits in the corner, just to make sure that this does not fall over, right? Make sure it's tight, like this, and your glass panel should be good. Just make sure it's all level and in place. We put a 3rd piece on, because yeah, it is a little bit humid in here because we spilt a lot of water, and the humidity is still in the room, right? So the tape isn't sticking to its best abilities. So we'll put 3 bits on each side, just to hold it into meantime. Right, make sure you press it all down, go to the other side, make sure it's not going to fall off. Yeah, the humidity is a pain. I don't think it's going to fall off, right? So this will get more secure the more panels that we actually put on, right? So the other one is over here. Hopefully that one stays still. This is the side panel. I've left the front panel to the very end. Once we get that in place, it should be very, very secure. And there is our side panel. You might have to sugar it just a wee bit to get it in, to sit into position. Like so. And guys, don't worry if it's not the perfect fit, because sometimes these panels are not made perfect in the first place. You get my drift? So it's okay if the panel isn't 100% square. Get your tape up, make sure it's in place, like so, and we can sugar it around a little bit and straighten up and whatever else once we've got our tape on, because this is the important part here, guys. We want to make sure that we get this secured. Alright, put your tape on. Put it around the back, like so. Make sure you press on well. Now I might use another type of tape on this as well, because this masking tape is okay, but I'm noticing it doesn't want to stick to the glass very well, and that's, to me, that's always a sign that there's a little bit too high humidity in the room. So I'm going to put 3 bits on here. One at the top. Because the last thing I'd want is humidity to remove this tape and then it collapse on itself. And you can hear that bottom bit there, you hear it? I have lots of tape here, so I'm going to put another bit on. Like so. Right, and then I'm just going to quickly check this side again, the one that we've just done. Make sure it is tight and level. One of these middle bits is almost off there. We might have to use something a little bit stronger than masking tape here, I think. I think I do have duct tape right on hand right there. Let's put a little piece in each corner just to be sure. The masking tape normally works, but as I said, let me see, what is the humidity in here? 50%. Which is higher than, about 10% higher than normal. So let me just put a piece of this into each corner and see if this helps. Put it onto the glass though. Press this on tight. And onto the back. Yeah, that is much better. Right, so, yeah. The reason I'm not using duct tape all the way around is because sometimes duct tape can be a wee bit of a pain in the arse to come back off, but yeah, it is okay for what we're doing. Let's put another piece on in this corner, just to be sure. Okay, so here is our piece of glass, our biggest piece, and it is very big. I'm going to try and turn it before we put it in place. My apologies if you can't see, because my beautiful butt is in the way. And there you go. Right, so let's just secure this front piece with this really flimsy piece of tape. And yeah, we're going to see what way it needs to go. I'm actually going to put duct tape on right now instead of masking tape, just to be sure that we're not going to have accidents here. And again, this will be fine if there's any residue from the duct tape, because sometimes there is. Sometimes there is. We'll be able to fix it. So yeah, is this way just a tad? We just put our piece of duct tape on this side. And this is just to hold it all in place, guys. And then we can start to see what needs to go where and what needs to be moved a little bit. So far so good. It is a little bit loose, but that's to be expected because there's no silicone here holding it together at all. Put a piece of duct tape on the front here. Yeah, there's nothing really holding it together apart from the tape that we're using. So let's just fix this. I can see that it needs to go that way a little bit. There you have it. There you have it. This is going to look nice. You can see along the edge, if you can even see down here that it's along this edge. I purposefully made sure I cleaned this edge really, really clean. You'll see when we're done. I'll make a point of showing you this. And just make sure our joints are nice and even. Yeah, masking tape doesn't really work so well when there's high humidity. Let's just put a piece here, somewhere. Yeah, when there's high humidity, it struggles to stick masking tape. Tank's looking really nice and clean, cleanish for not being washed. But this is what we're talking about here. This is what I wanted to improve, was this corner, because this corner was really, really ugly before, remember? It had it was a horrible silicone job, guys, where the silicone was going away up here and it was just like thumb smeared on. So I made sure that I cleaned that really well. I didn't make sure I cleaned the back part so well, but it doesn't matter because you can't really see them. I made sure I cleaned the front. Now this glass is really, really scratched, but it was a free tank, free-ish tank. I think it was like 100 kroners, and they supplied the silicone for me to fix it. Yeah, so it was a free tank. This is what I'm talking about, guys, here is make sure that when you do this stuff that your edges are lined up properly. This one's is nice. Make sure that the edges are in as close as possible. And remember, you're never going to get 100% perfect right, because you see there's a tiny gap there, tiny, tiny gap. You get this in all tanks, but silicone fills it in. Make sure your little joints are straight. You see what I did there? I straightened that joint up, but then the joint on the bottom there opened up. You see it? So you choose your what one you want it to be, open or closed. To me, it doesn't matter because silicone's going to fill it anyway. It's going to fill it all. Let's have a look over here. There's nothing wrong at all with the back. I can see down here. This one is fine. Yeah, this side is good. Look, there's nothing at all here. So there's only one corner really where it's open a tiny wee bit, and this could be down to maybe a difference in glass lengths and sizes when it's manufactured or something. Because yeah, if I close that bottom gap, the top side opens. You see it? Just make sure. Yeah, this is one I used to have a drain on. So this is what this hole is here. Let me just show you where we're at. We have masking taped the front edge of the tank, the front facing panel, like this, and I have went with the rule of making the panel where the silicone is going to be the same width as the actual glass on the tank, or roughly near it. You can see? Roughly near it. Because I think that's what will look aesthetically nice, and I've done the same on the bottom all the way along. And guys, you have to remember, I know this tank doesn't look the best, but this tank has been a cichlid tank. It's had rocks in it, whatever else, and it's been a saltwater tank for God knows how long. So this is probably as good as it's going to get. But I wanted the front to be clean, so we made sure we cleaned this front edge here, and we're going to give it an even coat of silicone with a line across that we will take off after we push the silicone in with our finger. All right, so let's get on to the next part. Okay, we have our aquarium silicone, and we have our little nozzle that we're going to apply it to here, right guys? And I want to try something here because I've been using these clippers, the kind of clippers that you get for clipping dog's toes, right? These ones we bought, we have like 3 or 4 pairs of these, but they're just far, far too big for our little dog. So I've been using them to cut reverse osmosis cabling and stuff, and the cut is almost perfect every time, right? So I wonder if we can do the same with this. Right, and again, we're going to go with the same rule of thumb as we talked about before. I want to give my, this bead, I want it to be roughly the same size as the thickness of the glass, right? So it needs to be probably, I would say about 8, 9, 10, almost 1 centimetre actually, right? So let's see, 1 centimetre across. We'll see, we'll try and go at a slight angle, maybe from behind, if this will open up far enough. As I said, this is a completely new way for me to do it, like this. And we'll see, if it's not big enough, I can make it even bigger. But let's push that down as far as we can go, and let's see, cut. Wouldn't you have it? Look at that, isn't that a nice even cut all the way around? So if you have these, get them into your shrimp room because they have a second purpose. Let's get on with the siliconing. Into our silicone gun. This has seen some amount of use since we moved into this house by the plumbers and guys fitting the kitchens, and I managed to get it back off them. Let's see. I'm going to do the first one right off the bat right here, and I'll then show you guys what it looks like. Hopefully there's not too much beard noise here. There probably is. Yeah, I want a big bead of silicone in this corner because this is where the mother effer failed, remember? So I want to make sure that it's got enough silicone to hold it together easily, guys. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and do the 4 corners as we speak, because it is the easiest thing for me to do. Big lovely bead of silicone right into the corner, all the way to the top. And yeah, once this is done, we'll leak test it for a couple of days, and that'll give me a chance to give the tank a little bit of a clean. There's some various ways of cleaning. And when you're doing this, guys, as well, it's worth mentioning that, yeah, you are making sure your tank is super strong by putting more silicone on than you think you need, right? So get it in there. Once we put our silicone on, we can go around and make sure the gaps are all even and stuff, and then we can actually remove excess silicone. Let's see, have I done them all? I'm going to do the back because this is probably the second biggest piece. And these straight edges, guys, are not as bad to do as the edges of this concaved tank, right? Because this is one of the things that is a little bit of an issue with this tank, is it's concave, so the edges are not straight in the corners, which means that you can have problems with the silicone not adhesing properly. Right, so I'm not putting too thick a bead there. Let's go into the corners. And guys, let me know as well, do you think silicone smells like vinegar? Whew, the smell. You know what's one of the really odd things is, I actually for a long time hated the smell of vinegar, now I love it. Shows you how quick your senses of smell and stuff can change as you get older. Like right now I love peanut butter, and I hated it all my life when I was a kid. Absolutely hated peanut butter. Same with jam. I kind of like jam a little bit now, but I used to absolutely hate it when I was a kid. Absolutely hate it. It's awful stuff, like blood of the devil kind of thing. I think we have one more joint to do, and then we're going to go around, and then we're going to tidy these lovely seals up, the seams. So that is what we had to do, guys. That is what it is. We had a seam failure. Oh God, this stuff doesn't have to make me cough. Right, so you release your little device. Just going to wipe the end like this. And I do it the old-fashioned way, finger and a piece of paper. And that's what works for me. Let me see. I'll move you so you can actually see a little bit better. Alright, I actually put you in the tank there. Alright, so what I do is I wipe my finger. And I like to do it the old-fashioned way, guys, where you just use saliva. You want to push your silicone into the corner like this. And this is where it doesn't matter if you've got a lot of excess on the tape, because it's going to come off, right? Lick your finger again. Do the same in the other corner, like this. And this is where you'll be able to tell if you've missed spots or not, right? Like so. Right, and then you want to do the bottom edge like this. And again, when you're doing it, you're making sure you're pushing your finger into the joint. wee bit too much on here, so I'm just going to take some off. Right, and by the way, when you do this with a piece of paper and you go like this, look how clean my finger is. You don't need anything special to do silicone in. Right, I'm going to do this side now. Let me see if you can see. Move you around a wee bit. Again, lick the finger. Start from somewhere in the middle. Oh God, this stuff. It is horrific to breathe in. Silicone. Lovely jubbly. Let me do the back side or the front side. Now I want this bit to be good, so I'm going to take special care here, guys. I think I will use my thumb. And so I'm going to wet my thumb and I'm just going to roughly put it across the top. Like this. I'm going to push my thumb into the corner and I'm just going to smooth it along like this. And if you do it right, you should have a nice edge here. And this looks nice enough. Hope I don't bang into here. Yeah, this looks good. Remove the excess. And I'll move you around here. I'll turn you off. Right, so my thumb actually worked really well there in this joint. So I'm just going to keep on using just my thumb. Like this. Go into the next joint. Make sure you're pushing it in. Now the only thing that's wrong with using your thumb is it's a little bit hard to turn. Let's see, put the thumb into the corner. Yeah, we're getting a nice seal here. Now guys, this is where you decide as well as if you have put enough silicone in or not, right? Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't put enough in. I think I'm going to have to use my finger on this bit because I just can't see what I'm doing. There we go. 2 more joints. Having to use my finger is not as good as the thumb, but I think we did this one here, didn't we? We did. Alright, let me see. I'm going to take my glasses off and I'll have a quick look around and see if we need to add some more silicone to some other pieces. Not perfect by any means, but it's really, really good enough. Right, so the silicone is done. I'm just going to grab this bucket here because we're going to take off the masking tape now, and hopefully it won't be too much of a mess. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Let's see if I can do it from the other side. And then after this we have to leave the aquarium for a good few days. At least I reckon 2, probably 3 if we want to leak test it, 3 days, which I'm okay about. That was a nice finish there. 3 days and then we can leak test it, which I always do, but I don't think I've ever had a tank leak after resealing it. But you never know, there's always a first time. Like something won't stick down properly or whatever else. Let's see, is there going to be a good finish here? And there is. Look at that, it's lovely and straight. Lovely and straight. That's what we're looking for. Nice straight finish. The vinegar smell on this is horrific. I don't know what that is that comes off silicone that makes that smell, but ugh, it's enough to make you pass out. So I think we did not too bad today, guys. We did not too bad, apart from me making a complete mess of the bin there with silicone on the top there. SHRIMPFAM, it has been approximately 3 days, and I would say our tank is done. I've given it a quick rinse and a little clean inside just to get rid of some of the debris, but what we're going to do next is I'm going to trim this camping mat here just along this edge to tidy it up, and then I'm going to fill it up and I'm going to test it for a few days before I decided that I'm going to restart this tank completely, because I have a new method. You won't see that in this video, But what you'll see is me filling it up right now, and we're going to leak test it. I'll come back tomorrow and we'll see if it leaked or not. Right, so we have water already here prepared. Let me just quickly see if we can tidy this edge up over here, because I have a little sharp knife. It's like the thicker, but I think it's sharper. Oh, there you go. So I made the wrong choice. Not too bad. It's not the best job in the world, but it serves a purpose in that it protects the base of our aquarium. Right, so guys, so let's get this filled up. Let's get the tank filled up. I have my water hose here just ready to go. Let's get you over here, up and in. And all I have to do here is press a little secret button in my pocket and we should have water flow. Hurrah! Right, so I'm not going to bore you guys with saying will this leak or will the leak test fail. I don't think I've ever had a leak test fail. So probably the next video you will see of this tank is me actually setting up properly for another Opae Ula tank. So I have a different idea of setting this up. Guys, if you'd like to see more videos like this where we do tank fixes and set up tanks and look after shrimp and all that kind of good stuff, then please do like and subscribe, right? Because you will absolutely love my channel. I promise you guys, this next tank here is going to be spectacularly full of shrimp, right? So keep on watching. Thanks for staying with me this long, and I'll see you all in the next one. Happy shrimping, guys.